Former Oakland Athletic, former New York Yankee, and former World Series MVP. Scott Brosius today on Locked On A's.
You are Locked On A's, your daily podcast on the Athletics, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I am your host, Booney. Thank you for making Locked On A's your first listen of the day. I'm from the Bay Area, and I've been a diehard A's fan since 1981. I'm here to bring you a real fan's take, covering everything from Oakland to Sacramento to Las Vegas. This is the place for A's fans to get the latest game breakdowns, team news, and more. This is where the passion of the fans take center stage. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. And please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button wherever you are following the show. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Today, we have a special guest, a true legend in the game of baseball, a man whose journey through the game of baseball is nothing short of inspirational. Scott Brosius is more than a name etched in the history of Major League Baseball. He is a testament to the hard work, perseverance, and unwavering commitment to excellence. Scott's story begins in the small town of Milwaukie, Oregon, where he honed his skills at Rex Putnam High School before taking his talents to Linfield College. It was there that his passion for the game truly took root, setting the stage for an extraordinary career. Drafted by the Oakland Athletics in the 20th round of the 1987 amateur draft, Scott's rise to the major leagues was not one paved with instant success, but with dedication and resilience. As an Oakland Athletic from 1991 to 1997, Scott made an immediate impact, hitting a home run in his very first major league game. He was the definition of versatility, playing multiple positions. His breakout year was in 1996 when he batted .304 with 22 home runs, was a clear indicator of the greatness to come. But as in life, baseball has its ups and downs. In 1997, Scott faced adversity, finishing last in several offensive categories. Yet, rather than let it define him, he used it as fuel to propel himself forward. Then came 1998, a year that would forever change Scott's career and cement his place in baseball history. Traded to the New York Yankees, he embraced the challenge with characteristic determination. That season, he batted .300, earned his first and only All-Star selection, and played a pivotal role in leading the Yankees to a World Series title. His .471 batting average in the 1998 World Series and two crucial home runs in Game 3 earned him the World Series MVP award, etching his name in the hearts of Yankee fans forever. Scott was more than just a great player. He embodied the values that define champions: hard work, humility, and the unwavering commitment to his team. Whether it was his clutch two-run home run in Game 5 of the 2001 World Series or his steadfast presence at third base where he won a Gold Glove in 1999, he represented the blue and collar spirit of not only Oakland, but of the Bronx faithful themselves. His contributions helped the Yankees secure 3 consecutive World Series titles from 1998 to 2000. Beyond his playing career, Scott's passion for baseball was always there. he transitioned seamlessly into coaching, returning to Linfield College as an assistant coach before taking the reins as head coach. His leadership brought Linfield its first NC2A national championship in 2013, and he was honored as Northwest Conference Coach of the Year 5 times. Scott continued to make his mark in professional baseball, coaching at the highest levels with the Seattle Mariners and the U.S. national baseball team. In 2024, Scott came full circle, returning to Linfield University as its athletic director, where his legacy of leadership and dedication continues to inspire future generations. Scott Brosius is more than just the accolades, the championships, or the awards. He is a role model, a mentor, and a living example of what can be achieved through perseverance and heart. Whether wearing the green and gold of the Athletics or the pinstripes of the Yankees, Scott played the game the right way, with integrity, passion, and the unrelenting drive to succeed. Scott Brosius. Scott, drafted by the Oakland Athletics in the 20th round of the 87 draft out of Linfield, got called up in 1991. You started playing on a regular basis in 94, which I believe was the strike shortened season. And in 95, the Haas family sold to Steve Schott and Ken Hoffman. And immediately they gutted the team and wanted to move out of Oakland. Now, the A's went from their most beloved owner in Haas to Schott and Hoffman. Now, as a player, do you feel that on the field, in the clubhouse? And what was the transition like for the team, for the organization?
Yeah, I mean, I think we certainly did. I mean, you feel it, you understand, and for me, a young player coming in with our first ownership with the Haas family, everything. It felt like the big leagues. It was first rate. When I came up, if you look at that team, it was loaded across the board.
Sure.
The run of those years from 89. Anyway, those early years of the late 80s, early 90s, very good roster, very loaded. Crowds, everything. It felt like a big league,
Right.
stadium, and so then we saw some changes start to happen a little bit. Obviously, some of it was the stadium itself. When Mount Davis was built, so to speak,
Sure.
and so we saw the stadium change quite a bit. But then we also saw a little direction, the roster. Mark McGwire getting traded, Terry Steinbach moving on. You start to go down the list of all the veteran, higher paid players were kind of moving off the roster and into that transition into younger, rosters without a lot of that experience. And we saw a little change in direction, certainly, and where we ended up being in the standings. And so we went from that place of being kind of that playoff contender every year to one struggling to keep up.
What was it like playing with guys like Canseco, McGwire, Ricky Henderson? What was the culture like in that clubhouse?
Yeah, I mean, as a young player coming up, it was pretty incredible. I mean, it was, number one, it was hard to crack that lineup.
I bet, yeah.
You look across the lineup and say, wow, where am I supposed to play? And you have Canseco, Ricky Henderson, Dave Henderson, Carney Lansford, Mark McGwire, Gallego, I mean, you just go down the list and you're like, wow, where do I play? But for a young player trying to learn the ropes, what an environment that was. I mean, you're looking at, you had at the time, 2 or 3, 4 potential Hall of Famers on that roster. And
Sure.
So it was certainly one of those clubhouses where, as a young guy, you paid attention, you listened to what guys had to say, and a lot of them had a lot to say. There was a certain way that they went about their business, and you were expected to be a part of that.
What was it like playing for Tony La Russa? And then Art Howe, was there a difference between the two in their styles?
Oh yeah, very much so. I think every manager has different styles, and Tony for young play, I think he was much more of an older players manager in a sense that he liked the veterans, the younger players. There's a lot of those guys that you just I think with Tony, I felt like as I look back his. Kind of his way of doing things was intense. You put pressure, you put guys in a position, right, to be able to handle the pressure. And so it always felt like a fairly intense, clubhouse and time on the field. Art was a little different than that. He was more of I think a player's manager in a sense of just go out, a little bit more of a calmer demeanor, I guess. And patience, I guess. Again, we had a younger roster and some patience with some of the younger players, and a little bit more of, hey, I want you to relax, go out there, be who you are, and if you can do that, then we think you'll be able to perform in those tougher situations. So two different ways to get to kind of the same place. We want you to perform in those pressure situations. How do we do it? Do we constantly put pressure on you to make you ready for that, or do we allow you to try to relax, be who you are, so you can trust yourself in those situations?
Did the A's offer you a contract? Did you want to stay in Oakland?
They did not. So, those 3 years were my arbitration years, my three
Sure.
arbitration years. And so, as I kind of moved through that process, the 97 season was, when Sandy Alderson stepped away and Billy Beane became the general manager. And so that off season, I think there was a pretty good indication. I'd heard rumbles during the 97 season that a possible trade may be happening. I had the knee injury, had the surgery, was struggling, offensively that year, regardless, before the injury. And so that trade didn't happen, but we had a pretty good feeling that off season it was going to happen. And so when I was traded to the Yankees, it was my final year of arbitration. And I think certainly coming off a poor 1997 and just, another 1 year contract to avoid going to arbitration.
Sure.
And then into free agency after the 98 season.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Game Time. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite memories was attending a concert last year. The energy and excitement were unforgettable. Now, Game Time has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I was looking for tickets to the Golden State Warriors game using the Game Time app. With Game Time Picks, I found amazing deals and could even see the view from my seat before buying. The super deal was particularly impressive, offering great seats at unbeatable prices. Plus, the app's all-in pricing shows the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Now, in 1998, you were a Yankee and arguably part of the greatest baseball team. And, you could even make an argument for the greatest sports team ever assembled. You guys were 114-48 in the playoffs. You guys were 11-3. 125 wins and 50 losses. And you were the MVP, World Series MVP of that team.
Yeah.
You have been in baseball and in sports your whole life. And as a player, as a coach, as an administrator on every team, culture of a team is stressed. 98 was a beginning of the Yankee dynasty. What was that culture like? And compare it to all other teams you've been part of at a collegiate level, at a coaching level, professional level. Was it different? What was it like being in that clubhouse every day?
Yeah, it was different, and I can argue too that the dynasty may have started in '96 when they won. They were knocked out of the playoffs in '97, and then '98, '99, 2000. 2001. So anyway, stretch there. So my point is, I joined a team. I joined a clubhouse that already had a culture of winning, that had won, and so this wasn't something that they were building. This was something that I became a part of, and it was truly. Culture matters. I don't care what anybody says.
Right.
Culture matters. Talent is out there. Every team has talent. Obviously, some teams have more money to spend than others, and so there's factors there. But every team has talent, and so culture does matter. The direction of the team, and so I saw it from day one, literally the first day in spring training. So you get traded to a team and you've played against guys and you know them at some level, but you don't know them until you're in the clubhouse with them. And so I'm sitting with Tino Martinez and Paul O'Neill and Bernie Williams and these core groups of guys, Derek Jeter, and we're in just these morning conversations about baseball, about whatever. And it was so apparent from the first day on. There was not a single conversation about contracts, about what I hope to do this year on the field, anything else. It was about, we're getting back to the World Series. We're going to win this thing this year. We're getting back. There was no talk about personal ambitions, personal goals. It was all about the team and how do we win, and the fact that there was just this tremendous drive to get back, to the playoffs and to the World Series and win it. And you take that attitude with the players and couple that with just Joe Torre and his style, and being such an amazing buffer there in New York, because you have all the noise in New York that goes with playing there, with ownership, with fans, with everybody, the expectations. There's just a lot of noise. And Joe was amazing at being a buffer and being that. You guys go out and play. I take care of this stuff. You guys just go out and play the game and do your thing. And so Clubhouse was, like I said, amazing. Everybody on the same page. You would go to dinner and there'd be 10 guys together at dinner, and it might be a different set of 10 guys every night. And so no cliques, just truly a roster committed to winning.
By this time in 1998, you've been a professional for over just about 10 years. Was seeing that somewhat of a shock? Was it refreshing? I mean, you came from the A's. How was it different from their clubhouse? Was it just the manner of professionalism?
Yeah, a little bit of all of that. I mean, number one, for me, the trade was just a shot of adrenaline. You're coming off a poor season on a last place team, and you're kind of wondering what the future even looks like. And next thing you know, you're part of a team that's going to push for a World Series. And so for me personally, that was a big wow. Now all of a sudden, these things that you dream about doing, that's when you become a professional, getting to a World Series, now seem to be a reality. So there was a real shot of, for me personally, what an awesome opportunity to be a part of this. And then, like I said, then you get there and it's just a different atmosphere. When you're on a young team like the A's were, and a lot of guys that are just striving to stay in the big leagues, there is a difference in how they go about your business. And the truth was, in some of those teams, when you came in and the Yankees came to town, you're looking at, how do we find a way to win a game, or how do we find a way, if all goes right, we can win a series. Where now you're on the other side of this, and the expectation is, we better not drop a game right here. We need to take care of these teams. And so just a completely different feel to how you go about the season. You were playing for something more and beyond the end of the season, where with some of the struggling teams those last couple of years, it was about how do I learn to be a big leaguer, and how do I stay here, and how do I learn to have success.
You played with Derek Jeter right across him for a number of years. What was it like playing with him? Was his approach different? How was he as a teammate? Or just was that whole Yankee team just a bunch of Derek Jeters?
Both. Yes. I think the whole team was, again, about winning, was about team goals, not personal goals. And that's who Jeter was. And so, for me, when I got there in 98, he was basically a third year player.
Right.
But he was well above his years, or beyond his years. He was mature. He played the game with maturity. He handled everything off the field with maturity as well. A young rising star in New York, there's a lot of distractions out there, and he was not distracted. He played the game. He came to play every day. He was kind of like those guys that, all of our guys that fierce competitiveness, but also enjoy the act of playing the game. So enjoying yourself on the field, relax, but fierce, team first. You need a ground ball to second base to move a guy to third base. With nobody out, he'll do it. He doesn't care about the batting average. He cares about getting the job done. And so that's who we were. He came into a team that was like that. But that was who he was. That was his personality as well. And it's really one of the reasons for his greatness was the fact that, the difference between, to me, good teams become great when your best players are the most accountable.
Right.
When your best players aren't the prima donnas, they're the ones who are driving the bus, and that's who he was, and that's who the Yankees were. Is we didn't have stars on the team. We did, but nobody thought they were. Nobody acted that way. They felt that they were a part of the whole of the team.
You played with arguably the two most dominant pitchers in the history of baseball, in Mariano Rivera and Roger Clemens. First, did you face either of them as a batter?
I did. Yeah. I faced Rivera. I faced Mo when he was young, when he first kind of came up, and came up as a starter,
Yes.
and so the earlier, so I saw him there, and then I faced him when he was in the setup role, and where things have changed a little bit with, how he pitched.
Yeah.
And so I kind of saw a little bit of that transition. And then, of course, watching him, on the other side of the ball, you just kind of went, wow, what has this guy become? I mean, he threw pitches that just weren't supposed to happen. You just don't throw that hard and see a ball move sideways 12 inches, and so kind of a freak in nature, pretty amazing to watch.
How about Clemens?
Yeah, same thing. Clemens faced him and faced him quite a bit in Oakland, and then my 1 year in New York, of course, we saw him a lot more because being in Toronto, in an East team, we saw him quite a bit. So, another guy that, playing against him, you don't like the guy,
I bet.
He was mean, nasty, competitive, good, all those things. But as we learned, you love him as a teammate because he'll put it out all on the line and had that same competitive, wanting to win that the rest of us had.
Who's the toughest pitcher you ever faced?
Oh man, I get that question a lot, and I wish I could tell you like one.
Yeah.
Because there was a bunch. There was a bunch of guys that were tough on me, but the guy that stands out is Randy Johnson.
Really? Yeah.
He just, and he's interesting because I didn't mind fastball pitchers, the guys that cut it, the guys that moved it. I didn't like that stuff so much. But I felt like I could hit a fastball, but I couldn't hit his fastball. Something about the release point, where it came from, just hard for me to pick up, and just did not have a lot of success against him.
Yeah, you and many others, that's for sure. We see a lot of documentaries these days about, obviously, legends of the game and so forth. And the guy that's maybe one of the biggest but presence in all of baseball is George Steinbrenner. Was he as hands-on as an owner as it is portrayed?
I can only share my experience the 4 years that I was there.
Yes.
And I understand in those 4 years, we went to the World Series 4 times. And
Right.
So times were good. We were rolling. But I only saw him as a positive presence.
Yes.
There were things that you saw and you kind of smiled about, his kind of maybe attention or over attention to some details that may or may not have been overly important. But in terms of how he was with the players, he was nothing but positive. I remember my first spring training showed up. I was there a few days early just to try to get acclimated and down in the cages, just kind of hitting on my own. And he walked. And so that was kind of that ooh moment, like, okay, first time meeting the boss, how's this going to go? And it was amazing. Walked over, hey, welcome, you're a part of our Yankee family now. We're glad to have you, that type of thing. And every conversation with him was just more of that football coach, let's go, let's get them, very really during those years, a very positive time, presence in the clubhouse. I mean, he made it very clear, as the owner there, I pay well, my expectations are you play well, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And so ultimately, some guys struggled to play in New York and play for them. Other guys thrived. And I think being okay with that expectation is great. I mean, that's why I played the game, was to get the opportunity to win. And that's the one thing that he provided us year in and year out, was the opportunity to win.
You mentioned earlier how those Yankees teams would go out to dinner and there was never any type of cliques and that sort of thing. Would there be any circumstance or any time where you could remember where Torrey, the coaching staff, Steinbrenner would join you on those issues, or was that more of a player-only type deal?
Those are more player-only things, but one thing that stood out for me, and this is where I was like, okay, this is different and this is cool, was so really early, first week of the season in '98, we were in Seattle, and that year we'd gotten off to that slow start. We were 1-3 or 1-4 that first year. People don't remember that too much, but we did. We got off to a slow start. We're in Seattle, and big group of us at a restaurant, kind of in a back room, eating after one of the games, like 12 of us, 15 of us, pretty big group. And Joe poked his head in, and he kind of walked in and he looked around and he goes, huh. He goes, I like what I'm seeing. And he paid the bill for the entire dinner.
Is that right?
And I thought, wow, that's really cool. He recognizes that, hey, this is a good thing. This is what we need right now. We need our guys together, and took care of the bill. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by SelectQuote. In sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the Olympics. The same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from SelectQuote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. SelectQuote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they have helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets SelectQuote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, their licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage of up to $5 million. No medical exam required. And it's more affordable than you think. You can get up to $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedon. Go to selectquote.com/lockedon to get started today. That's selectquote.com/lockedon. SelectQuote. They shop, you save. Is the teammate that was maybe your favorite, or when you were coming up young, or maybe when you got to the Yankees, that just showed you the ropes, taught you something that kind of, somebody that just made a difference?
I think one guy that really stands out for me, just if you talk about kind of my development, my process through, is Jeff Newman.
Yes. Wow.
Newman
Former
was
MVP.
coach. I'm sorry?
He was a former MVP, I believe, right?
Yeah, so Nunu was my coach for basically I guess 3 years in the minor leagues. So both years in AA and
Is
then
that right?
in AAA, and so you spend that much time with one with one manager in the minor leagues, you're going to learn a lot, and he taught me a ton, not just about playing the game. I mean, countless hours in the cages, working on hitting, things like that, great, but more just about how to be a teammate. How to just how to play the game, not just the mechanics of the game. And he talked at length and all the time about, listen, you want to be more desirable as a player. You be a great teammate, because as your team plays better, you become more valuable. And that is the case, and I saw it firsthand. For example, for me personally, I had some pretty good defensive years in Oakland, but never won a Gold Glove. But you join the Yankees and you're playing in the World Series and part of a winning team, then all of a sudden doing the same thing, some of those personal things happen, and so you don't get noticed if you hit 300 on a last place team, but you do if you hit 300 on a first place team,
Absolutely.
and so that's really kind of what he taught me, was be a great teammate. You become more valuable when you're a part of a good team, and so I owe a lot, I think, of my development both on and off the field in the clubhouse, to a lot of what he shared and taught me over the years.
Scott, it goes without saying that you've had a absolutely remarkable career from Oakland to New York, and now where it all began in McKinnville, Oregon. Baseball's changed a lot with analytics, and it's used right now more as a rule rather than a tool. Looking back, do you believe 1987 Scott Brosius with the exact same skill set would be looked at the same today?
I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be, in for a couple of reasons. One that's kind of outside of the current game, but another that is. I mean, outside the game, Linfield, where I played, was an NAIA school at the time.
Yes.
And so we played Portland State, we played Oregon State, we played some Division I schools where there was a lot more scouting. So I'm playing at a small school, but we had the opportunity to play bigger schools. In today's world, Linfield's a Division III school, not an NAIA school, so most of our games are against Division III schools that just aren't scouted the same way and didn't have the opportunity maybe to play some of those other programs where scouts could see you in a different, that kind of that bigger environment. So I think number one, I wouldn't have been scouted the same. But number two, I think what they look at now might be different. When I was coaching at Linfield, we had a right-handed pitcher that was our national player of the year, for two-time first-team All-American, but he pitched in the 88 to 92 mile-an-hour range. And I had scouts telling me that as a right-handed pitcher, they don't even put him on their board if he doesn't throw 95 miles an hour.
Jeez.
And so, so there has certainly been movement to power versus, ultimately, I think and I'm sure the analytics would argue against this. Ultimately, I felt like what determines who should pitch is who gets hitters out. Does it really matter how they do it, but who gets
right?
So does Greg Maddux get treated the same way in today's game that he did? Would Greg Maddux be who he is? Would he have, would he have gotten those same opportunities? And so I think in the same way, that move to just straight power, it's just a different game now. And players, again, as a player, you will do what's valued. And so I don't blame the players. This is what's valued. This is what's get you drafted. This is what's get you to the big leagues. You're going to do what teams value. I just think now versus 1987, teams value different things. And so I would have been looked at differently.
Do you like baseball today? What do you think of the game today compared? It almost seems like it's two different games.
It is a different game, no question about it. I don't know what to make of it sometimes. Obviously, I love the game of baseball. The game for me, and having managed and coached as well as played, I think we've lost, just some of the the game is not mentally challenging to watch on TV because you kind of know there's nothing to think along with anymore. There's no bunting, there's no hit and runs. I mean, we have a little bit more stealing we've tried to inject into the game, but the game, Yeah. The game is just basically power pitching versus power hitting, and so we've lost some of the action of the game. So for me, it's not quite as enjoyable. There's just not as much to think along. But at the same time, and I experienced this for the couple of years that I was with the Mariners here, not too many years ago. I think players today are more prepared. They're bigger, stronger, better athletes than we've ever had in the game. So the talent has grown. So it's something to be appreciated, and we should enjoy just the level of talent we have in our league now. I just wish there's a little bit more. It's just such a one-dimensional game.
Sure.
I think one of the things that made us so good, that what made the Yankees so good, is we had the ability to create runs different ways. We weren't a power-based team. We had great pitching, no doubt about it, and great pitching's always going to help dictate a winning season. We had great pitching, but offensively, we didn't have to rely on the home runs. Our Tino in '98, we won 114 games. Tino was our top home run hitter. We had 28.
That's amazing.
So we had we had a deep lineup. We could, for me, it's kind of, having a bunch of arrows in the quiver there, different ways. If it's by bunting, if it's by, hitting, running, moving, whatever it might be, situational hitting seems to, a lot of that is just gone from the game. Run around second base, nobody out. We're not even trying to move runners over. We're just still swinging hard and trying to drive a pitch. And so I miss that part I miss, but I appreciate the talent of the game.
Last question. What is your take on A's ownership, them leaving Oakland, that whole saga that has been publicized? Is there anybody at fault? Is the city at fault? Is ownership at fault? Is MLB at fault? What's your take on the whole Oakland A's moving to Sacramento, then potentially Vegas?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I try not to be one of those to have an opinion when I don't really know all. I don't know what's been going on behind the scenes. I don't know what those meetings have looked like. I don't know. I don't know anything. So it's hard to have a true opinion other than the fact that it's sad. It's sad that this has happened, that the team is moving. But it's also been very sad to see the state of that stadium. As a home player over the years, to see where it's gone. And then even from 2016 and 18, when I was back coaching with the Mariners and seeing 5,000 people in the stadium and just an empty, old, crumbling stadium. When you're sitting in the clubhouse and the toilets are backing up and all these kind of things, so it just got to a sad place where something needed to happen. And if they couldn't get a stadium built, then this was going to happen at some point. And so I don't know the reasons why it didn't happen, but ultimately just feel like it's kind of a sad day when the Bay Area loses a team.
Scott, thank you for the memories, the inspiration, and for showing us that true greatness is not just measured by what you accomplish, but by how you inspire those around you. Congratulations on a remarkable career and an even more remarkable life in baseball. Thank you for making Locked On A's your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every rumor and story throughout the offseason. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Take care, everybody.